Hi friends, Miss G again. So today we're going to be talking about a weather station. We've talked a lot about weather and we've talked about some of the tools that we use to help us observe the weather, but we haven't talked about a full-on weather station. Now, there are weather stations all across the globe. There are weather stations all the way up at the North Pole. There are weather stations on boats that travel across the seas. There are weather stations probably within your own backyard or somewhere very near your house. Let's talk a little bit about what is included in a weather station. Now, I have one right here. This is a pretty simple weather station and something you could even ask for a birthday present or a Christmas present or Hanukkah present. You could even build one at home. So let's first take this apart. Most weather stations are going to have a thermometer that's going to measure temperature, an anemometer. Can you say anemometer? An anemometer that's going to measure wind speed, a wind vane that is going to measure the wind direction, a rain gauge, this is going to measure how much precipitation you've had. Remember, that could be either rain, sleet, snow, freezing rain. And something I don't have here is a barometer. That measures the air pressure. And we'll talk about that one later on. But for now, let's take this one apart. So the first one is the thermometer. And if you recall, a thermometer is basically the way that you measure how hot or how cold it is outside. And the red liquid on the inside, as it gets higher up, it goes to those higher numbers. That means it's getting hotter outside. And the lower it goes, that means that it's getting colder outside. Now, we'll talk more about the thermometer later. This is the anemometer. If you were to take this outside, it would start to spin. It might spin very slow. It might spin very fast. If it's spinning slow, that means that there are very calm winds. It might not even spin at all. If it's spinning faster, that means you've got pretty strong winds. And if it blows off, you probably shouldn't even be outside. Now, as the anemometer is spinning, or maybe not spinning, the wind vane is going to point in the direction of where the winds are coming from. So there's a tail and there's an arrow. The tail is going to go in the direction of the wind, and the arrow is going to point in the direction from where the winds are coming from. And the way that you can tell the direction is because there's a handy dandy little compass right here. And I'll show it to you when we go outside in just a little bit. But this compass is what tells us where the wind is coming from, if it's coming from the north or the south, the east or the west. And it has a magnetic approach where it can point in the direction of the north and the south poles. We'll cover that in a later cup. But for now, I want you to remember that the wind vane and the anemometer are going to help us tell the wind speed and the wind direction. And the last thing that I want to show you here is the rain gauge. It's very important to know how much rainfall that we've had or precipitation that we've had, because that tells us if we're in a wet pattern or a dry pattern. And what we could expect if we're going into a drought, we'll talk about drought, or even a possible flood. And we'll talk about flooding too. But what you do is you make sure you have the funnel on top of the rain gauge. I'll take it out. And the funnel is going to help collect the precipitation in the tube. And at a certain time each day, you go out and you see how much rainfall you've had in that period of time. And you can see there are little bitty ticks here and there are numbers, and that helps us to tell how much precipitation that we've had. Some rain gauges measure in inches. Some rain gauges measure in millimeters. And if you add them up, sometimes you might even get feet of rainfall. That's a lot of rainfall, a lot of precipitation. Now, there are more bells and whistles to our weather station here, and we'll cover some more of that at a later time, specifically this greenhouse. I love talking about greenhouses. But for now, I want to show you how we're going to make this work. Follow me. We're going to go outside.